Hello? Okay, so really quick. Mr. Paoli, you know, we never stopped believing, right? And for us that have worked here for a really long time, we've hoped and prayed and just really wanted this to happen. And guess what? You might get that office out in the middle of the stadium because we're getting a new school. Right now, I'm so excited. You know, it's been a long, long journey. We've, you know, with the district folk, we've put in for a certificate of necessity for many, many, many years. And we did a lot of work, a lot of background work with our superintendent, Dr. Jones, Mr. Sean Sokolowski, Mr. Al Schrum, and all the people that they've worked with at the state level to try to make this happen, along with we had an incredible tour, a couple tours actually, but we brought DOE right in here, right at 11 o'clock, right when that wing is letting out, right when we're having lunch, when we have a gazillion kids all around. We walked them in our cafeteria, we walked them in our gymnasium, we walked them down the math wing. We showed them that we do have a need. We love our kids, we love our building, we love each other, and we have a great community and culture. But we know that we can only make it that much better by having a new facility. So that's what happened. We're ecstatically excited. I want to thank our administrative team, Rocky, Celeste, Mike, specifically Mike, because he was able to take the architectural plans and show that they were actually a little incorrect. They were actually putting too many students that were being able to be housed in this building, and we actually corrected it and showed that we are overpopulated and that we need a new building, and he was able to do that for us. So and while I have them here, our facilities and maintenance crew, please stand up if you're seated. Thank you. Each and every day for putting Band-Aids on things, for fixing things, for keeping our school so clean. Our grounds are perfectly manicured all the time. We thank you so, so very much, and we really appreciate you. Assistants and the ladies that are always keeping this building functioning. Even when our phones don't work, our bells don't work, we have to let people in manually through the door. Thank you, ladies, so, so much. And then all of you, obviously, all the concessions you've done. Our coaching staff, Dave Collins, you might get that stadium you've always wanted, Frank Moffitt, our coaches, Pat Henry, so all of our coaches, you know, we're going to have obviously a journey that we're going to have to go through, and they're going to talk about that in a minute. But I also want to thank all of the staff members. You guys have made it work. And look, this is going to be a journey. It's not happening overnight, but we know it is going to happen. So that's really, really exciting. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hand the mic over to Mr. Sean Sokolowski, and he's going to talk a little bit about the next steps in this process, okay?
So great to see everybody so excited. It's so well deserved to get a new Hodgson. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process. About 7 or 8 years ago, the district said that there's a need. The obvious need is a new Hodgson. So they hired some architects and engineers to put together some numbers, some estimates to see how much it would cost and if it was feasible. They did that. They took that to the board and then to DOE. So for the past 7 or 8 years, the district's been taking the C of N to DOE every year with updated figures, asking for a new Hodgson, and it's always been declined. This year, thanks in large part to Dr. Jones and the many people that he's he's coordinated with board members, legislators, key people within the citizens group. We were able to get a new Hodgson. At least right now, DOE is recommending it to the Office of Management and Budget. Another, I think, very wonderful thing was Dr. Callahan and Mr. Paoli taking DOE on the tour and letting DOE actually see the building and what you guys struggle with every day. So, so with that, so basically the next steps now are DOE is going to make a recommendation to OMB for the new Hodgson building. It's about a $136 million project. So OMB will take that under advisement, make recommendations to the bond bill committee. The bond bill committee will hopefully put it in the bond bill and then hopefully be in the governor's recommended budget. Once it gets in the governor's recommended budget, it's pretty much a certainty, but obviously not until June 30th, once the General Assembly passes the final governor's budget, is it actually a for sure done deal. So we're keeping our fingers crossed till June 30th. We don't foresee any kind of impasses between now and then. If there are, we will certainly let you all know and the parents know so that you could reach out to your legislators to help support a new Hodgson. But like I said, at this point, we don't foresee any impasses, and we think this will go through as of June 30th. So very exciting, very, very exciting.
All right, now I bring it back to reality a little bit. Timeline, construction timeline. The first steps would be a request for proposal for an architect. That design and program review is going to take about a year and a half. So you're looking at maybe June of 2023 before we even do break ground. But the nice part is, and I kind of feel like I'm on a game show, you get a window and you get a window. So the idea would be RFP for construction management. Mr. Paoli was out on the football field because that's going to be the biggest impact. Students pretty much won't have a home game for 4 or 5 years. The first plan is to tear down fields, stadium. That's where you build your new school. Then we move into the new school. Could take 3 years worth of construction just based on today's numbers. Move in, and then we tear down the old school and build all the fields in the stadium over here. I'm looking at 6 years from now. That's just a conservative number. But in the end, 6 years from now, for those that are still going to be around, brand new school, brand new facility, I think it's something we're definitely excited about. So I'm looking forward to it.
Sorry, guys.
So the 6 years is a little sobering, and it seems like a long time, but anybody who's been in this game for a while realizes 6 years is a blank. And it is incredibly an exciting time. I mean, this is huge, not only for Hodgson, but our major selling point throughout all of this is Hodgson is the beacon in this community, bar none. And so being a Christina product, going to Glasgow, being at Christiana High, Newark High, it's not that the other schools aren't delivering. They serve a great purpose, but I think when we really sat down and spoke to individuals, career and technical education is where it's at, and there's been a massive effort in our state and in our county to push that forward. We really doubled down on that narrative, what we were looking to accomplish, and selling the fact that as a school district goes, as a school goes, we affect real estate, we affect the environment, we affect everybody who lives in this area. And we wanted to make sure everyone through the Route 40 corridor to 896 and elsewhere, they recognize that this school that we're building is really for them. So it is a tribute to you and everything that you do every day and what really this school stands for now in the community 40 years later. So I think that's a huge selling point. And Dave, I just had to lie to on Sunday. I don't think there's a moment I've talked to Mara where he hasn't asked me about a new building. So, you know, I try not to lie outwardly, but I had to, Dave, and I didn't want to spoil the fun today. With that said, I will say also, in thanking our facility staff, it was hard because this building is very well kept. It doesn't always function well, we know it. Taking them through the boiler rooms, going back to Mr. Thompson's CTE area, disturbing social studies class improv is the best thing we could have done. Because that's when they started to recognize we can't have a conversation around learning loss and accelerated learning and not see how we're affecting kids every day in an inferior building. But that said, they all complimented the building and said, we don't want to tear this down. But at some point, you make an investment in the school, in the community, in the kids, and they saw really what we could do, what we could build, how we can expand. We are hoping to build a school that could take about 200, 250 more students, so Hodgson grows. Its footprint in the community grows, and we continue to do wonderful things. So I do want to also take a minute and thank Dr. Callahan and Mike and Mr. Sosa and where's Rob and Mr. Hollis. That day, us touring, everybody was on point. It was important because when we walked around and they saw how narrow the halls are, how we have to let kids out sooner, the difference between, and I'm probably getting in trouble for saying this, Miss Krevlin's classroom and others, and we pointed it out as much as possible. Say, listen, this is what natural light does. There's a lot of things we're not doing for our students that in 2021 we should be doing. So not only does that go to the mental health of our kids, it also goes to the mental health of each of you. So thank you for everything you're doing each and every day. Continue to realize, I know this has been a tough year. I've heard people say time and time again, Joe, this is probably the most difficult year I've ever had in education. I think most of you know my wife's a first grade teacher. She reminds me of that usually about 6 o'clock every night, maybe 6:30. But at any rate, we know it, but you're doing phenomenal things. Realize that Hodgson, and just if you have to, this is where you just put it on that post-it note, people recognize that this school is the center of the community. And just know that whether or not you're told this all the time, whether you realize it, for the students who attend here, we're doing phenomenal things. And for just this past Sunday, for every prospective student that walked through our halls, they want to be a part of this magnificent school. So thank you, and keep up the phenomenal work. We wanted to give you this time this afternoon and just really let you, regroup. But if you want to ask any questions, now would be the time as well. Mr. Gray?
I think we heard with the windows.
Yeah. We will invite a lot of community input, like school community input. Where are you within this process? And although the 6 years seems like a long time, it'll be fun. I mean, talk to anyone who built Cape. That process goes, but we're going to need enough input really around the CTE areas, the classrooms, what they should look like. Everybody knows this wasn't designed for what we're using it for. So this next design will get right.
And it's going to be interesting, just the whole process. You got to picture how many contractors are going to be on site. And it's not like the property has grown. So as we tear down, we're going to need a place for them to go and still keep an active school going at the same time. So you'll see a lot in the next 3 years.
Yeah. All of that will start to figure out. The reason it'll take on, we don't have a preset design. So those of you around for St. George's, they had designed St. George's years before. This is still in its complete infancy. We'll start working and designing what we think would be the best fit. So that would be taken under consultation.
Part of the certificate of necessity, literally, all we did was we took a footprint of what it could look like and just placed it over top. And said, this is where it is. So there's nothing really other than just like an anomaly hotel, you know what I mean?
We'll go here and then Richard.
So the 6 years is actually built, and then take longer.
I'm thinking total time.
We're hoping 6 years, we're playing football in the new school.
So we'll build it with a slide.
Yes.
So, like I said, a year and a half for the design, for the